Okay guys, so we're going to go ahead and we are going to look at the second half of the first pre-calculus lesson with regards to domain and range. And this is going to go back more towards the first lesson that we had in the beginning of the school year with regards to definition terms like relation, like what is a relation, to determine if something is a function or not. So let's go ahead and go into our first example. Okay, which we are going to state the domain and range of the elements below. Okay? And state if it's a function. Okay? So for this example, you're going to have a diagram. Okay? And you're going to have the numbers 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay? And you're going to have the numbers 2, 3, 1, 9, 8, and 12. Okay? And now these numbers are going to match. We're going to have 3 matching to 2. Okay? 4 matching to 1. 5 matching to 9. And then we're going to have 6 matching to 12. And 7 matching to 12. Okay? So now we want to go ahead and we want to state the domain and the range, right? So the domain, as I've said before, okay, is going to be your x values, right? You're going to read the domain based off of the x values, whereas the range, you read on the y values, right? Okay, so the range is going to be based off of the y values, because you always look at the y-axis to get the values for the domain, and for the range you look at the x-axis to get the values for the domain. Fresh restart. What I meant is for the domain, okay, you get the x values, aka the x-axis, right? For the range, you look at the y values, aka the y-axis. Okay, so that's where I got this from, okay? So that's the way that this should work. So when you're looking at this diagram here, you have your input and you have the output, meaning that the input is going to be your x values, and the output is going to be your y values. So if you're looking to get the domain is going to be the solutions of the numbers that you have mapping out. So it would be 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And you use those curly brackets to identify those values. And so now for my range, I'm going to use the curly brackets again, and I'm going to go ahead and identify the values, but you're only identifying the values that were being mapped. So in this situation, the values that were being mapped is 2, 1, 9, and 12. 3 and 8, I'm not going to go ahead and identify because those values were not mapped. Okay, I only want the values that were mapped. So I'm going to go ahead and go 1, 2, 9, and 12. Okay, and I don't know if you guys remember from the beginning of the school year, I told you guys what you could do if these lines were getting confusing for you guys is to convert them to ordered pairs. so that way you could see what pairs you have, or what X and Y values you have. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. So I'm going to go ahead and get 3, 2 right here. 3, 2, and map it. And then do the next one, which is going to be 4, 1, 5, 9, 6, 12, and 7, 12. And the reason why I did this, okay, is because I still need to know if it is a function or not. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but a function is when no X values repeat. Okay, so this is literally going back straight to the beginning of the school year. Okay, so the things that are highlighted, those are the important ones. That's what we want to figure out. So I'm going to look at the X values. Remember, all of these are X comma Y. That means that this is X, 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 versus this being Y, 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 Y. So I want to look at all of the X values, okay? X, 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 X. Do any of those values repeat? No repeated X values. Therefore, this is a function. Okay, and then that's that for that problem. Okay, so now let's go with example number 2. The question is going to be the same. State the domain and the range. Okay. And then determine if scatter plot is a function. So that's going to leave us with this scatter plot right here. Okay, so I want to go ahead and find the domain. I see a bunch of values, so I'm going to have to state it like this. And I'm looking for the X values. So every single one of these dots, I'm going to go to the X. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and that's my domain. So now for the range, I'm going to look at the Y values. Okay, so I just go 3, 1, 2, -1, 0, and then 6. So my range is going to be -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 6. Okay? And now, is this a function, yes or no? Well, you can go ahead and do every single ordered pair, right? And you can go ahead and check to see if this is or is not a function. And therefore, in order to determine if it is, you just have to look to make sure that there are no repeated X values, which you can also just look at the domain. And you can see right here that none of those X values are repeated. You can also go ahead and do the ordered pairs like we did. 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, -1, 4, 2, 5, 0, and then 6, 6. And you'll see X values repeated. Nope. Another thing too that you could do is called the vertical line test. I don't know if you guys remember this one. But we can go ahead and do the vertical line test. And if it passes the vertical line test, then that means that there are no repeated x values, right? So if I do the vertical line test right here, that line only touches 1 point. Vertical line test here, that line only touches 1 point, 1 point, 1 point, 1 point, 1 point. Therefore, this one passes the vertical line test. AKA no repeated x values. Therefore, it is a function. Okay? Okay, next example. Okay, we're going to go ahead. You're going to state the domain and range. And then determine if it's a function. Okay? Okay, now for this one, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to give you this graph right here. Okay? And so now we have to go ahead and we have to find the domain.